touch the moonstone and you die. The elder's warning still echoes in Kira's mind as rough hands drag her through the packed dirt streets of the lower district. She's too numb to struggle, too shocked to process what's happening. Behind her, the jeers of pack members grow louder with each step toward the Alpha's stronghold. Thief. Traitor. Moonstone stealer. Kira's bare feet. They'd ripped off her worn shoes when they seized her from the market, scrape against the frozen ground, leaving smears of blood on the ice-crusted path. The tattered brown cloth she wears, patched and repatched a dozen times, hangs off her thin frame like a burial shroud. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The stale bread she'd been reaching for when the guards grabbed her still sits on the merchant's table, just out of reach. Out of reach like everything in her life. Hello friends. Before we journey deeper into Kira's story, I invite you to subscribe and share in the comments where you're listening from. Your presence here matters. Now let's continue. Please, she whispers, not to the guards whose fingers dig bruises into her arms, but to no one in particular. To the universe that's been cruel since the night her parents vanished 10 years ago. I didn't take anything. Marcus Silverstone's laughter cuts through the crowd like a blade. He walks ahead of the procession, his silver-ranked wolf form gleaming even in human shape, his expensive leather coat a stark contrast to her rags. The morning sun catches the silver threading in his collar, a mark of his status as nephew to the Alpha King himself. Look at her shake. Did you really think no one would notice a rat like you sneaking around the sacred temple? His voice carries across the crowd, performing for them. That you could steal from the Alpha King himself and disappear back into whatever gutter spawned you? The crowd parts as they approach the massive stone gates of the stronghold. Kira has seen it from a distance her entire life. An imposing fortress of dark granite that rises from the earth like a fong. Up close it's even more terrifying. Ancient runes are carved into every surface, glowing faintly with protective magic. Guard towers loom overhead, wolves in both human and beast form watching from the battlements. They drag her through the gates into a courtyard where hundreds of pack members have already gathered. Word spreads fast in the Silver Moon territory. An execution, especially one involving the werewolf, draws crowds like blood draws predators. I didn't steal anything, Kira tries again, her voice barely audible over the crowd's murmuring. I've never even been inside the temple. I was sleeping in the market alley. I don't know anything about. Silence. A guard strikes her across the face and she tastes copper. Her vision blurs. But through the tears she sees the great doors of the stronghold opening. The judgment hall is exactly what she'd imagined from the nightmares. Vaulted ceilings that disappear into shadow, columns carved with the history of every Alpha who's ruled for the past 3 centuries, and at the far end, elevated on a dais of black stone, the throne. Alpha King Gareth Blackthorn sits with the stillness of a predator. He's massive even-seated, easily 6.5 feet of pure muscle with shoulders that strain against his leather vest. His hair is dark with silver streaks at the temples, pulled back to reveal a face carved by battles and decades of leadership. Scars trace his jaw and disappear beneath his collar. His eyes, amber and ancient, fix on her with an intensity that makes her knees buckle. The guards force her to the floor. The stone is ice-cold against her knees, against her bleeding feet. To Gareth's right stands Elder Moira, ancient and austere, her white hair bound in traditional braids. To his left, the pack's high-ranking wolves form a semicircle of judgment. Kira recognizes some of them, warriors she's seen from afar, merchants who've kicked her away from their stalls, nobles who've never once acknowledged her existence. Kira Ashwood. Gareth's voice rolls through the hall like distant thunder. You stand accused of stealing the sacred moonstone from the temple of our ancestors. This is a crime punishable by death. I didn't, Kira starts, but Marcus steps forward, cutting her off. Your Majesty, if I may. He bows with practiced grace. I witnessed this vagrant near the temple at moonrise 3 nights ago. She was lurking in the shadows near the eastern entrance. When I called out to her, she fled. The next morning, the moonstone was discovered missing from its altar. That's not true. Kira surges to her feet, only to be slammed back down by the guards. I've never been to the temple. I don't even know what the moonstone looks like. Elder Moira's lip curls in disgust. The word of a high-ranked wolf against that of an orphan with no family name, no status, no pack bonds? There is no question of truth here. But I didn't. Enough. Gareth raises one hand and silence falls like an executioner's blade. He studies Kira for a long moment, those amber eyes searching for something. Whatever he's looking for, he doesn't seem to find it. The law is clear. Theft of sacred relics is an affront to our ancestors, to the pack itself. The punishment must serve as reminder and warning. Kira's heart hammers against her ribs. She wants to scream, to fight, to run. But where would she go? She has nothing. She is nothing. Just another invisible girl the world has decided to discard. Kira Ashwood, Gareth's voice carries the weight of centuries. I sentence you to trial by Valkyr. At noon, when the sun is highest and the pack can bear witness, you will be delivered into the pit. If you are innocent, the war wolf will spare you. If you are guilty... He doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. The crowd erupts in excited whispers. Kira hears fragments. Never lets anyone live. Tore apart the Eastern rebels. 200 years old and has never shown mercy. Guards haul her to her feet and drag her toward a door at the side of the hall. As they pull her away, she catches Marcus's expression. For just a moment, his mask of righteous indignation slips, and she sees something else underneath. Triumph. Cold, calculated triumph. He did this. Somehow he framed her. But why? She's nobody. She has nothing worth stealing, no threat worth eliminating. The guards throw her into a cell beneath the stronghold. The door slams shut with a finality that echoes in her bones. Through the small barred window, she can see the sky beginning to brighten. Morning creeping toward noon. Creeping toward her death. Kira sinks to the floor, pulling her knees to her chest. Her shoulder aches where it presses against the stone wall. Without thinking, she reaches back to touch the crescent-shaped birthmark that's been there since birth. The only mark that makes her different from anyone else in the pack. Her mother used to trace it with gentle fingers, singing soft lullabies Kira can barely remember now. Her father used to call it her moon kiss, a blessing from the ancestors. Some blessing. Some curse, more like. Outside, she hears the construction beginning. The pit being prepared. The viewing platforms being erected for the pack to watch her die. Kira closes her eyes and tries to remember her parents' faces, their voices, anything that might bring comfort in these final hours. But the memories are too old, too faded, worn away by 10 years of survival. All she has left is the certainty of what's coming. At noon she'll face Valkyr, the legendary war wolf who has never shown mercy. And everyone knows what happens to those who enter the pit. No one comes out alive. The hours crawl by like wounded animals, each minute stretching into eternity. Kira doesn't sleep. She sits in the corner of her cell, watching the light shift through the barred window as the sun climbs higher. Outside, she hears the sounds of preparation, hammering, the scrape of wood on stone, voices calling instructions. They're building her execution like it's a festival. When the guards finally come for her, the sun is directly overhead, burning through the winter sky with merciless clarity. They don't speak as they unlock her cell. They don't need to. Their expressions say everything. Pity mixed with morbid curiosity. They've seen this before. They know how it ends. The iron shackles are heavy on her wrists, the metal biting into skin already raw from the morning's rough treatment. They lead her up from the dungeons through a different corridor than before, this one sloping upward toward the arena at the heart of the stronghold. She can hear them before she sees them. Hundreds of voices, maybe thousands, a roar of anticipation that makes her stomach turn. The corridor opens onto a platform, and suddenly she's standing above the execution pit, exposed to the entire pack. The arena is massive, carved from the living rock beneath the stronghold. Viewing platforms rise in tiers on all sides, packed with pack members who've come to witness justice. Or entertainment. Kira suspects for most of them there's no difference. The pit itself yawns below her, 20 feet deep, 30 feet across, its walls smooth stone stained dark with old blood. Bones lie scattered in the corners, some still bearing scraps of cloth. How many people have died here? How many innocents? Move. A guard prods her forward toward a rope ladder that descends into the pit. Kira's legs shake as she approaches the edge. The crowd's roar intensifies and she catches fragments of their shouts. Thief! Let Valkyr have her. Tear her apart. But there are other voices too, quieter, uncertain. She's just a girl. What if she's innocent? This isn't right. Alpha King Gareth sits in an elevated throne directly across from her, his face carved from stone. Elder Moira stands at his right, satisfaction gleaming in her ancient eyes. Marcus Silverstone lounges nearby, and when their eyes meet he smiles. It's a predator's smile, cold and triumphant. The guards remove her shackles. Down, one commands, gesturing to the ladder. Kira's hands tremble as she grips the rough rope. The descent is awkward, her bare feet slipping on the rungs. Halfway down, her grip falters and she falls the remaining 10 feet, landing hard on the packed earth. Pain shoots through her ankle, but she forces herself to stand. The ladder is pulled up immediately. The trapdoor on the opposite wall, the one that will release Valkyr, looms before her like a mouth waiting to swallow her whole. The crowd falls silent. Waiting. Gareth rises from his throne, and his voice carries across the arena with supernatural clarity. Kira Ashwood, you stand accused of stealing the sacred moonstone. The war wolf will judge your guilt or innocence. May the ancestors guide his fangs. He raises one hand and somewhere below the arena mechanisms grind to life. The trapdoor begins to rise. First comes the growl, so deep it's more vibration than sound, rattling Kira's bones and stealing the breath from her lungs. The ground beneath her feet trembles. Then the scrape of claws on stone, each step deliberate, measured, the approach of something that has all the time in the world because nothing can challenge it. The shadow emerges first, stretching across the pit floor like a living thing. Then the beast itself steps into the light, and Kira's mind struggles to comprehend what she's seeing. Valkyr is massive, 9 feet of pure muscle and predatory grace. His fur is black as midnight, but where the light catches it she sees undertones of deep crimson, like dried blood has soaked into his coat and become part of him. The fur along his spine stands in jagged ridges, and his shoulders are broader than any wolf she's ever seen, even in full pack gatherings. But it's his eyes that freeze her in place. Molten amber, glowing with an intelligence that's almost human. No, beyond human. Knowing. Eyes that have seen centuries pass, that have watched civilizations rise and fall, that have witnessed more death than she can imagine. His muzzle is scarred, deep grooves cutting through the dark fur where fangs have torn and healed over decades. More scars trace his flanks, his legs. Marks from claws, blades, magic. A history of violence written on his body. Those fangs, gods, they're longer than her forearm, gleaming white against his black lips as he curls them back in a snarl that makes the crowd gasp with excitement. Valkyr circles her slowly, his massive paws silent despite his size. Each step is controlled, purposeful. He's not rushing to kill. He's assessing. Deciding. Kira's instinct screams at her to run, but there's nowhere to go. The walls are too smooth to climb. The only exits are the trapdoor Valkyr came through and the ladder far above her reach. She's trapped in here with a creature that's killed warriors, rebels, anyone who's ever been thrown into this pit. His growl intensifies as he moves closer, hot breath washing over her face. She can smell him, earth and blood and something wild that makes every human instinct scream danger. His eyes bore into hers, searching for something. Kira closes her eyes. If she's going to die, she won't give Marcus the satisfaction of seeing her terror. She won't scream or beg. She'll face this with whatever dignity she has left. But as she stands there waiting for the killing blow, something shifts inside her. Maybe it's the certainty of death. Maybe it's the injustice of dying for a crime she didn't commit. Maybe it's the bone-deep exhaustion of 10 years spent invisible and alone. Whatever it is, it loosens her tongue. I know what it's like, she whispers, her eyes still closed. The growling stops. The sudden silence is deafening. Kira opens her eyes to find Valkyr's massive head tilted slightly, his ears swiveled toward her. Listening. To be alone, she continues, her voice gaining strength despite her terror. To be feared. To have everyone expect you to be a monster. She takes a shaky breath. Everyone sees you as a weapon, a tool. Something to use to point at their enemies. But they never see you. They never ask what you want or who you are beneath the fangs and the fury. Valker's amber eyes narrow, but he doesn't attack. If anything, he seems curious. You're powerful and deadly, so you're always separate, always apart. Kira's voice cracks. I'm weak and worthless, so I'm invisible. But we're the same, aren't we? Surrounded by hundreds of people and utterly, completely alone. The war wolf moves closer, so close now that she could reach out and touch him. His breath ruffles her hair. The crowd above has gone completely silent, hundreds of pack members holding their breath. Kira's hand rises slowly, trembling. She doesn't know why she does it. Instinct maybe. Or madness. Or the simple human need for connection in her final moments. Her palm touches his scarred muzzle. Valker's massive body shudders. Then, with a movement so slow it seems to bend time itself, he lowers his front legs. His great head bows until his muzzle nearly touches the blood-stained ground. The ancient gesture of submission. The gesture reserved only for true-born royalty. The crowd erupts in chaos, gasps, shouts, disbelief. Alpha King Gareth surges to his feet, his face a mask of shock. Elder Moira's mouth opens and closes wordlessly. Marcus Silverstone has gone pale as death. But Kira barely notices. She's staring at Valker, at this legendary war wolf kneeling before her like she's someone worth honoring. His amber eyes meet hers, and in them she sees recognition. Not of her face or her name. Recognition of her soul. The silence shatters like broken glass. Impossible. Elder Moira's shriek cuts across the arena. This is trickery. Dark magic. She must have enchanted the beast. But her protests are drowned out by the chaos erupting from the crowd. Pack members shout over each other, some calling for Kira's immediate execution, others demanding answers. The viewing platforms shake with the commotion of thousands of wolves trying to make sense of what they've just witnessed. Alpha King Gareth's voice booms across the arena, cutting through the noise like a blade. Silence. The command carries the weight of absolute authority, of 2 decades ruling the Silvermoon Pack. Every voice falls quiet. Every eye turns to the throne. Gareth's amber eyes are fixed on the pit, on the impossible scene below. His war wolf, the legendary Valker who has executed traitors and crushed rebellions, kneeling before a homeless girl in rags. Guards, Gareth's voice is dangerously quiet now. Descend into the pit. Bring the girl up. Carefully. 10 guards scramble down rope ladders on all sides of the pit, their hands on their weapons but uncertainty written across their faces. They've trained for combat, for crowd control, for defense against enemy packs. They haven't trained for this. As they approach, Valker's head lifts slightly, a low warning rumble emanating from his chest. The guards freeze. It's all right, Kira hears herself say, her hand still resting on Valker's massive head. She doesn't know where the words come from, doesn't understand the certainty she feels. Let them approach. The war wolf's growl subsides, but he doesn't move from his kneeling position. His amber eyes track every guard's movement, a clear message. Harm her and titles won't save you. 2 guards reach Kira's sides, gripping her arms with considerably more gentleness than they'd shown earlier. As they lift her to her feet, Valker rises as well, his massive body moving to follow. When a guard steps between them, the war wolf bares his fangs, and the man stumbles backwards so fast he nearly falls. Let him follow, Gareth commands from above. Clearly he's made his choice. The ascent from the pit is surreal. Kira climbs the ladder with guards before and behind her, and Valker somehow scales the smooth wall beside her with claws that find purchase in impossibly small cracks. His amber eyes never leave her, protective and possessive in equal measure. When they reach the arena floor, the crowd presses back, creating a wide circle around them. Kira has never seen pack members look afraid before. She's always been the one they dismissed, overlooked, feared walking too close to. Now they stare at her like she's transformed into something dangerous. Elder Moira descends from the platform, her ceremonial robes sweeping the ground. Her ancient face is twisted with suspicion and barely concealed rage. This girl must be examined immediately. No one has ever bonded with the war wolf except through the royal bloodline. Then examine her, Gareth says, his voice carrying an edge that suggests his patience is wearing thin. But do it properly, Moira. If there's magic at work, we'll find it. If there's not. He lets the implication hang. They bring Kira to a chamber off the main arena. A ritual room with walls covered in ancient pack symbols and a stone altar in the center. Valkyr tries to follow, but Gareth himself steps into the doorway, blocking the werewolf's path. "Wait here, old friend," the Alpha King says, and there's something almost gentle in his voice. "If she's harmed, you'll know. But let us discover the truth." Valkyr's growl is low and continuous, but he settles onto his haunches outside the door, amber eyes fixed on Kira through the opening. Elder Moira circles Kira like a vulture, her gnarled hands weaving patterns in the air, speaking words in the old tongue that Kira doesn't understand. Magic tingles across her skin, invasive and uncomfortable. "Remove your shirt," Moira commands. Kira's hands shake as she pulls the tattered cloth over her head, standing in nothing but the thin underbinding that barely preserves her modesty. She's never felt more exposed, more vulnerable. Moira's examination is thorough and humiliating. She inspects every inch of Kira's skin, looking for magical marks, enchantment scars, anything that might explain the impossible bond. Her fingers are cold and impersonal, treating Kira like an object rather than a person. Then Moira's hands freeze on Kira's left shoulder blade. The Elder's sharp intake of breath is the only sound in the chamber. Slowly she turns Kira around, angling her toward the light streaming through the high windows. "No," Moira whispers, but it sounds more like a curse than a denial. "It cannot be." "What is it?" Gareth steps closer, his massive frame blocking the light. With trembling fingers, Moira traces the crescent-shaped birthmark on Kira's shoulder. It's always been there, faint and easily overlooked beneath years of grime. But now, with Moira's magic still active in the air, it seems to glow with a soft silver light. "The mark of Ashwood," Moira breathes. "The crescent moon of the true bloodline." The silence that follows is absolute. Gareth moves so fast Kira doesn't see him coming. His hand grips her shoulder, not roughly but firmly, turning her so he can see the mark himself. His amber eyes widen, and for the first time since she's seen him, the Alpha King looks genuinely shaken. "Bring the ancient records," he commands. "Now." Two attendants scramble to obey, returning moments later with leather-bound volumes so old they look like they might crumble to dust. Elder Moira spreads them across the altar with reverent care, flipping through pages of genealogies, birth records, royal documentation spanning centuries. She finds what she's looking for and her face goes ashen. "Kira Ashwood," Moira reads aloud, her voice hollow. "Born under the blood moon, 20th year of Alpha Theron's reign. Daughter of Matthias Ashwood and Lioness Silverpaw. Granddaughter of Alpha Kieran Ashwood, who ruled before the uprising." She looks up and there's something like horror in her ancient eyes. "The last of the royal line. The heir we thought dead." Kira's world tilts. "That's not. I'm not." But even as she protests, memories surface like drowning victims breaking the surface. Her father's careful instructions: "Never show anyone your mark, little moon. Never tell them your full name." Her mother's lullabies about silver crowns and ancient thrones. The way they moved every few months, always looking over their shoulders, always afraid. "The coup," Gareth says quietly, more to himself than anyone else. 20 years ago my father led the uprising against Alpha Kieran. The Ashwood family was slaughtered in their beds. Every member of the royal line eliminated to prevent future challenges. Except one," Moira finishes, staring at Kira. "A child. 7 years old. She vanished the night of the massacre. Search parties looked for months, but she was never found. We assumed she died in the woods or been taken by rogues or her parents got her out," Kira whispers, the pieces falling into horrible place. "They weren't laborers. They were guardians. They hid me, raised me as a nobody, kept me invisible and safe. Until 10 years ago," Gareth says. "What happened then?" Kira's throat tightens. "They disappeared. I woke up one morning and they were gone. I was 11. I waited for days but they never came back. They were found." Elder Moira's voice is flat. "Theron's loyalists hunted for years, following every whisper of a hidden child. When they finally tracked your parents down." She doesn't finish. "They killed them," Kira says numbly. But they didn't know about me. I was just another orphan on the streets. Invisible. Forgotten. Not forgotten, Gareth says, and there's something complicated in his expression. Valkyr remembered. As if summoned by his name, the war wolf's howl echoes through the stronghold, not aggressive but mournful. The sound of recognition, of grief, of 20 years of waiting finally ended. Valkyr is bound by ancient magic to the Ashwood bloodline, Moira explains, her voice mechanical, reciting facts because they're safer than processing their implications. He's served your family for over 200 years. Your grandfather, your great-grandfather, generations before them. When the massacre happened, the bond should have severed, should have passed to the new ruling line. But it didn't, Gareth finishes. Because the line didn't end. It just went into hiding. Outside, Kira hears raised voices. The news is spreading through the stronghold like wildfire. She catches fragments. The true heir, Ashwood lives. Everything we believed was a lie. This changes everything, Elder Moira says, and Kira can't tell if it's a threat or a prophecy. Gareth is silent for a long moment, his face unreadable. When he finally speaks, his voice is carefully controlled. Kira Ashwood, rightful heir to the Silvermoon Pack, you have been falsely accused of theft and sentenced to death. This judgment is hereby overturned. Relief crashes through her, but it's short-lived. However, Gareth continues, your existence presents a significant challenge to Pack stability. There are those who will support your claim to the throne simply because of your bloodline. There are others who will see you as a threat to be eliminated. And there are those who will follow me because I've ruled with strength and prosperity for 20 years. Through the chamber door, Kira sees Pack members gathering in factions. Some wear expressions of hope and excitement, the old bloodline restored. Others look angry, threatened. Marcus Silverstone stands among a group of high-ranked wolves, his face pale but calculating. The pack is already dividing. Elder Moira straightens, her expression hardening. There is precedent for this. When succession is disputed, the challenger must prove themselves worthy through the trials of worth. No, Gareth says immediately. She's barely survived one encounter with Valkyr. The trials would. I'll do them. The words escape Kira's mouth before her brain catches up. Both Gareth and Moira turn to stare at her. I'll do the trials, she repeats, forcing strength into her voice she doesn't feel. I don't want to tear the pack apart. I don't want civil war. If there's a way to prove myself, to earn the right to my own name, then I'll take it. Gareth studies her for a long moment, something like respect flickering across his face. Then he nods slowly. 3 trials, he says. Strength, wisdom, and courage. You pass all 3 and I'll acknowledge your claim. You fail. I know, Kira says quietly. If I fail, I forfeit my life. Outside, Valkyr's howl rises again, and this time the entire pack joins in. A sound of uncertainty, of change, of a future suddenly unclear. Everything has changed in a single afternoon. Kira Ashwood is no longer an invisible nobody. She's a threat, a hope, a catalyst. And the real trials are only beginning. They move to a private council chamber deep within the stronghold, away from the chaos erupting in the arena. Kira walks between guards, but they're not restraining her anymore. They're escorting her, protecting her. The shift is surreal. Valkyr refuses to be separated from her again. He walks at her side, his massive body a constant warm presence, his amber eyes scanning every shadow for threats. Pack members press against the walls to let them pass, staring with expressions ranging from awe to fear to barely concealed hostility. The council chamber is impressive. A circular room with a domed ceiling painted with constellations, a massive oak table at its center carved with the pack's history. Alpha King Gareth sits at the head, but he gestures for Kira to sit as well, not as a prisoner but as an equal. It's the first time in her life anyone has offered her a chair. Elder Moira takes her place at Gareth's right, her ancient face still tight with shock. Several high-ranking wolves file in. The Beta, the pack's war leader, the keeper of records. All of them stare at Kira like she's a ghost made flesh. Let me be direct, Gareth says once the doors are closed and sealed with privacy wards. Your existence complicates everything. My father took this throne through force 20 years ago, believing the Ashwood line extinct. I inherited that throne when he died 5 years later. I've ruled ever since, and by most measures I've ruled well. He leans forward, his scarred hands flat on the table. We've had peace with neighboring packs. Our territory has expanded. Trade flourishes. The pack is stronger and more prosperous than it was under your grandfather's final years. Kira stays silent, sensing there's more coming. But, Gareth continues, I also know that my father's coup was brutal. Bloody. The Ashwood family was beloved by many. And their slaughter left wounds that never fully healed. There are pack members who've waited 20 years hoping for exactly this. The return of the true bloodline. And there are those who'll see her as a threat, the beta adds gruffly. His name is Dominic Ironfang, and his face bears the marks of countless battles. High-ranked wolves who've built their power under your rule, Alpha. They won't surrender that easily. Marcus, Kira says quietly. Gareth's expression darkens. Among others. My nephew stands to inherit if I die without heir. Your existence eliminates that possibility. He framed me, Kira says, certainty hardening her voice. He stole the moonstone and blamed me, hoping I'd be executed before anyone discovered who I really was. Very likely, Gareth agrees. Though proving it will be difficult. Marcus is cunning. He wouldn't leave evidence. Elder Moira clears her throat. Which brings us to the matter of the trials. If Kira truly wishes to claim her birthright, she must prove herself worthy not just by blood, but by merit. 3 trials, Gareth says, and his tone shifts to something almost gentle. Trials that will test your strength, your wisdom, and your courage. They'll take place over 3 weeks, culminating on the blood moon. What happens if I pass? Kira asks. Then I acknowledge you as the rightful heir, Gareth says simply. Your claim supersedes mine. And if I fail? Then you face execution and this disruption ends. The bluntness should terrify her, but Kira finds herself nodding. Fair enough. When do we start? Gareth actually smiles. A brief, almost reluctant expression. You have courage, I'll grant you that. But first, we need to address your immediate situation. He gestures to her appearance. The tattered clothes, the bare feet, the grime of years on the streets. Kira flushes with shame. You can't prepare for the trials living like a vagrant, Gareth says, not unkindly. For the next 3 weeks you'll stay here in the stronghold. Guest quarters, not the dungeons. You'll be fed, clothed, and given access to trainers. You're helping me? Kira can't keep the disbelief from her voice. Why? If I succeed, you lose the throne. Gareth leans back in his chair, his amber eyes thoughtful. I took this throne believing it was my right, my duty after my father's death. But I'm not a tyrant, Kira. If Valkyr has chosen you, if the ancient magic recognizes your claim, then perhaps I've been keeping a seat warm that was never truly mine. He pauses. Besides, a weak challenger helps no one. If you're going to face the trials, you'll face them properly. Win or lose on merit, not because you were sabotaged by starvation and lack of preparation. It's more honor than she expected. More than she's received from anyone in 10 years. Thank you, she whispers. Don't thank me yet, Gareth says dryly. The trials are designed to be nearly impossible. And even if you pass, claiming the throne means taking responsibility for thousands of lives. It's not a fairy tale, Kira. It's a burden that will break you if you're not strong enough to carry it. A servant leads Kira through corridors that grow progressively more luxurious, until they reach a suite of rooms that makes her breath catch. Bed with actual sheets, a private bathing chamber with running water, windows that overlook the forest beyond the stronghold's walls. It's more space than she's had in years. More comfort than she remembers existing. Fresh clothes will be brought shortly, the servant says, her voice carefully neutral. Meals will be delivered 3 times daily. If you need anything, ring the bell by the door. When the servant leaves, Kira stands in the center of the room, overwhelmed. Valkyr has followed her inside, and now he settles near the fireplace, watching her with those ancient, knowing eyes. This is insane, Kira says aloud. Yesterday I was sleeping in an alley. Today I'm, what? A princess? An heir? I don't even know how to be a person, let alone royalty. Valker's ears twitch and she feels something brush against her mind. Not words exactly but impressions. Warmth. Reassurance. Certainty. Kira approaches slowly, sinking to her knees beside the massive war wolf. Up close she can see the individual scars marking his body, each one a story of violence survived. Gently she places her hand on his head. The bond that snaps into place is like lightning. Sudden, powerful, undeniable. Images flood her mind. Her grandfather, young and strong, his hand on Valker's head just like this. Her great-grandfather before him. Generations of Ashwoods, all connected to this ancient guardian. And then the night of the massacre. Flames consuming the palace, screams echoing through halls, blood pooling on marble floors. Valker trying desperately to reach the royal family, held back by magic wards placed by the attackers. His howls of grief and rage as he felt each bond sever one by one. Until only the faintest thread remained. A child, hidden away, her bloodline connection too distant to locate but strong enough to persist. For 20 years, Valker has waited, bound to serve a throne held by those not of the blood, waiting for the impossible return. And now she's here. Tears stream down Kira's face as she experiences his memories, his emotions. The loneliness isn't just hers, it's his too. 2 decades of isolation, of being feared and weaponized, of having no one who understood. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "I'm sorry you waited so long. I'm sorry I didn't know." Valker's massive head pushes against her chest, and she wraps her arms around him as best she can, crying into his dark fur. He's warm and solid and real, and for the first time in 10 years she doesn't feel alone. When the tears finally stop, Kira pulls back and looks into Valker's amber eyes. "I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough." Through their bond she feels his response. She doesn't need to be strong. She needs to be herself. That's what he recognized in the pit. Not power or skill but her soul. The same compassion and courage that defined her ancestors. A knock at the door interrupts the moment. Kira rises, wiping her eyes, expecting the servant with clothes. Instead, a woman stands in the doorway, lean and muscular with short-cropped hair and sharp green eyes. She wears training leathers and carries herself like a fighter. "Kira Ashwood?" the woman asks. "I'm Elena Nightshade, pack warrior. I've been assigned to help prepare you for the trials." She pauses, her expression softening slightly. "Though truthfully I volunteered. My grandmother served your grandfather. She always said the Ashwoods ruled with honor. I'd like to see that again." It's the first expression of genuine support Kira has received, and it nearly breaks her composure again. "Thank you," she manages. Elena steps inside and Valker doesn't growl, a sign of approval that doesn't go unnoticed. "We start training tomorrow at dawn. Tonight you rest, eat, recover. You're going to need your strength." After Elena leaves, Kira finally allows herself to use the bathing chamber. The hot water is a luxury she's almost forgotten, washing away years of accumulated grime and fear. When she emerges, clean clothes wait on the bed, simple but well-made, fitting properly for the first time in memory. She eats the meal brought by servants, real food, hot and plentiful, until her stomach aches from unfamiliar fullness. As darkness falls and she climbs into the impossibly soft bed, Valker settles on the floor beside her, his presence a comfort and a promise. Kira stares at the ceiling, processing everything that's happened. This morning she was condemned to die. Tonight she's the lost heir, preparing for trials that will determine not just her fate but potentially the future of the entire pack. It's terrifying. It's overwhelming. But for the first time in 10 years she has hope. Across the stronghold, in a different wing entirely, Marcus Silverstone paces his chambers like a caged animal. The other high-ranked wolves gathered there watch him with varying degrees of concern and calculation. "She has to die," Marcus says flatly. "I don't care about trials or honor or ancient bloodlines. Kira Ashwood is a threat to everything we've built." The Alpha King has declared the trials, one of the others protests. To interfere would be breaking sacred law. "Then we make sure she fails." Marcus stops pacing, his eyes cold. "The trials can be adjusted, made more difficult, sabotaged if necessary." He smiles, and it's the expression of a predator who's found wounded prey. One way or another, that girl won't survive the next 3 weeks. I'll make certain of it. 3 weeks pass in a blur of training, pain, and transformation. Elena proves to be a demanding teacher. Every morning before dawn, she drags Kira to the training grounds where they work until Kira's muscles scream and her lungs burn. She learns to fight in human form, strikes, blocks, grappling techniques passed down through generations. She learns to shift, the transformation becoming less agonizing with each attempt, though it still feels like her bones are breaking and reforming. Most importantly, she learns to trust Valkyr. Their bond deepens daily, until she can sense his emotions as clearly as her own, until his combat knowledge flows into her muscle memory like inherited skill. But despite the progress, despite Elena's encouragement and Valkyr's unwavering support, Kira knows she's nowhere near the level of trained warriors who've spent their entire lives preparing for combat. On the morning of the first trial, the entire pack gathers in the main arena. The viewing platforms are packed even more densely than they were for her execution, thousands of wolves pressing together to witness history. Will the lost heir prove herself worthy? Or will she fall, eliminating the threat to the current regime? Kira stands in the preparation chamber, wearing fighting leathers that still feel foreign on her body. Her hands shake as she tightens the straps, and she forces herself to breathe slowly, deeply, like Elena taught her. "You're not alone," Elena says quietly, placing a hand on Kira's shoulder. "Remember that. Valkyr is with you even if he can't fight beside you. And you're stronger than you think." Through the chamber walls, Kira hears the roar of the crowd as Alpha King Gareth takes his position on the elevated throne. His voice, magically amplified, carries across the arena. "Today we bear witness to the first trial of worth, the trial of strength." Gareth's announcement silences the crowd. Kira Ashwood, heir claimant to the Silver Moon Pack, will face 3 opponents in successive combat. Each battle will be fought in wolf form to submission or surrender. No weapons. No outside interference. A pause heavy with significance. The opponents have been chosen from among our skilled warriors. First, Brenna Copperfield, veteran of the Northern Border conflicts. Second, Drake Ironclaw, champion of the autumn tournaments for 3 consecutive years. Third, Jenna Swift, master of evasive combat techniques. Kira's stomach drops. She knows these names. She's watched Elena spar with Brenna. The woman is fast and vicious. Drake is legendary for his size and power. And Jenna has never lost a sparring match in 5 years. Let the trial begin. Guards open the chamber door and Kira steps into the arena. The crowd's roar is deafening, some cheering, many jeering, all hungry for spectacle. She searches the viewing platforms and finds Valkyr in the designated observation area, his amber eyes locked on her with fierce intensity. Through their bond she feels his confidence, his certainty. He believes in her even if she doesn't believe in herself. Across the arena, Brenna Copperfield waits. The woman is mid-30s, lean and scarred, with eyes that assess Kira like a butcher evaluating meat. At Gareth's signal, both women begin to shift. The transformation still hurts. Bones cracking, muscles tearing and reforming, fur erupting through skin. But Kira has learned to channel the pain into focus. When she emerges on 4 legs, she's smaller than Brenna's wolf form, her brown-toned fur sleek but less imposing than the veteran's battle-scarred gray coat. Brenna doesn't wait. She lunges immediately, testing Kira's reflexes. Kira barely dodges, her smaller size giving her speed. Brenna's jaws snap closed on empty air where Kira's throat was a heartbeat before. The crowd roars approval at the near miss. They circle each other and Kira remembers Elena's instructions. Use what you have. You're smaller, faster. Don't try to match strength. Outlast them. Frustrate them. Brenna charges again, and this time Kira doesn't dodge away. She dodges in, sliding under the larger wolf's body and raking claws along her exposed flank. Not deep enough to seriously wound, but enough to draw first blood. The veteran snarls, spinning faster than Kira expected. Fangs catch Kira's shoulder, tearing through fur and flesh. Pain explodes white-hot, but Kira uses the momentum, twisting away and putting distance between them. Blood drips from both combatants now. The crowd's noise intensifies. For 10 brutal minutes they exchange blows. Brenna has experience and power, but Kira has desperation and something else. Flashes of technique that aren't hers, combat knowledge flowing through her bond with Valkyr. Ancient maneuvers used by her ancestors, moves that surprise even Brenna. Finally, Kira sees her opening. Brenna overextends on a lunge and Kira darts in low, hooking the veteran's front leg and using her own momentum against her. Brenna crashes to the ground and before she can recover, Kira's jaws are at her throat. Yield. Brenna's submission comes through a wolfish whine. Kira releases her immediately, stepping back. The crowd erupts, some in approval, many in shock. The homeless girl just defeated a veteran warrior. But there's no time to celebrate. Brenna limps off the field and Drake Ironclaw enters. If Brenna was intimidating, Drake is terrifying. His wolf form is massive. Easily 300 pounds of muscle and fury, his dark gray coat crossed with scars from a lifetime of combat. He doesn't charge immediately. He studies her, intelligent eyes calculating. When he does move, it's with surprising speed for his size. He catches Kira's flank, his weight crushing her against the ground. Ribs crack with audible snaps and Kira yelps in pain. The crowd's roar becomes background noise to the agony radiating through her torso. Drake doesn't press his advantage immediately. He's not trying to kill her, just prove dominance. But Kira knows if she stays down, she loses. Through the bond, Valkyr's rage is palpable. He's restrained by guards, but his growls carry across the arena, lending Kira strength. She remembers something her mother used to say, a fragment of memory surfacing through the pain. The moon waxes and wanes, little one, but it always returns. Bend, don't break. Instead of fighting Drake's weight, Kira goes limp, submissive. Drake's grip relaxes slightly, instinct telling him the fight is won. That moment of reduced pressure is all she needs. Kira explodes upward, not with strength but with every ounce of speed she possesses, twisting out from under him. Her broken ribs scream protest, but she ignores them, darting around Drake's bulk to snap at his hind legs. What follows is a war of attrition. Drake is stronger, but Kira is faster and more desperate. She can't match his power, so she doesn't try. She bleeds him with quick strikes, never staying in range long enough for him to pin her again. She uses the arena itself, keeping obstacles between them, forcing him to chase, to tire. 20 minutes in, Drake is slowing. Massive muscles burn through energy faster, and Kira's hit-and-run tactics are working. When he stumbles from exhaustion, she's there, fangs at his throat before he can recover. Drake's yield is reluctant but clear. Kira staggers back, her vision blurring from pain. Blood mats her fur from a dozen wounds. Her ribs send lightning bolts of agony with each breath. But she's won twice. One more battle. The crowd is no longer jeering. They're watching with something approaching respect, even those who oppose her claim. Then Marcus Silverstone steps onto the field and everything changes. A moment, Alpha King, Marcus calls out, his voice carrying across the arena. Jenna Swift has unfortunately sustained an injury during warm-up exercises. Her healer has declared her unfit to compete. Gareth's eyes narrow. Convenient timing. Indeed unfortunate, Marcus agrees smoothly. However, tradition allows for a substitute in such circumstances. I volunteer to take her place. The crowd erupts in shouts of protest and approval. Marcus is Gareth's nephew, high-ranked and a skilled fighter. More importantly, everyone knows he wants Kira dead. Gareth rises from his throne. This is highly irregular. But within the rules, Elder Moira interjects, and Kira realizes with sinking dread that the Elder is supporting the substitution. How many others has Marcus corrupted? Very well, Gareth says, his jaw tight with barely suppressed anger. But Marcus, you will fight to submission only. This is a trial, not an execution. Am I clear? Perfectly clear, uncle. Marcus's smile is all teeth. Kira watches him shift, her body already screaming for rest, for healing. His wolf form is silver and magnificent, larger than Brenna's, nearly as large as Drake's, with none of Drake's exhaustion. And the look in his eyes promises murder. When Gareth signals the start, Marcus doesn't circle or assess. He attacks with killing intent, his jaws aimed not for submission holds but for her throat, her spine, anything vital. Kira barely escapes the first strike, her injured ribs making her movements jerky and slow. Marcus's fangs tear into her shoulder, the same one Brenna wounded earlier, ripping through muscle down to bone. She yelps and the sound seems to excite him. He presses the attack, giving her no room to breathe, no space to recover. This isn't combat. It's an execution dressed in trials clothing. The crowd's shouts blur together. Some call for Marcus to back off, others encourage him. Kira can't distinguish between them anymore. All she knows is pain and the certainty that Marcus won't stop until she's dead. Through the bond, Valker's fury reaches a crescendo. She hears guards struggling to restrain him, hears his howls of rage. He's trying to reach her to protect her, but the trial rules prevent interference. Marcus catches her again, his weight crushing her already broken ribs. His fangs find her throat and Kira feels the pressure building, feels her airway closing. This is it, she thinks distantly. He's going to kill me and no one will stop him in time. But then Valker's howl pierces through everything. Not just a sound but a pulse of power that surges through their bond. And with it comes knowledge, combat techniques from 200 years of warfare, maneuvers perfected by her grandfather, her great-grandfather, every Ashwood who ever fought alongside the war wolf. Her body moves on instinct, muscle memory from a bloodline older than Marcus's entire family. She twists in his grip with a technique that hasn't been used in decades, breaking his hold and using his own momentum to flip him. Marcus crashes to the ground, genuinely shocked. Before he can recover, Kira is on him, fangs at his throat, pressing down with every ounce of strength she has left. For a moment their eyes meet. His are filled with hatred and disbelief. Hers are filled with ancestral power and iron will. Yield, she growls through their mental connection. Marcus's body trembles with rage, but he's pinned. He's beaten. And the entire pack is watching. Yield, Kira repeats, pressing harder. I yield. Marcus finally snarls and the words taste like poison in his mouth. Kira releases him immediately and steps back, swaying on her paws. The arena spins. Her vision darkens at the edges. She's lost too much blood, taken too much damage. But she's won. All 3 battles. The crowd's roar is deafening as Kira's legs finally give out and she collapses to the blood-soaked ground. The last thing she sees before darkness claims her is Valker finally breaking free of his restraints, rushing across the arena toward her. And the look on Marcus Silverstone's face, pure undiluted hatred as he realizes his plan has failed. The first trial is past. But the war is far from over. Kira wakes to pain and the scent of healing herbs. She's in the medical wing, her body wrapped in bandages that smell of wolfsbane and silverleaf, traditional pack medicines. Every breath sends sharp reminders of her broken ribs through her torso. Her shoulder throbs where Marcus's fangs tore deep. Easy, Elena's voice comes from beside the bed. You've been unconscious for 2 days. The healer said you're lucky to be alive. Kira's throat is dry as sand. Did I pass? You defeated 3 opponents in succession, including a high-ranked wolf who was actively trying to kill you. Elena's smile is fierce. Yes, you passed. The whole pack is talking about it. Half of them think you're blessed by the ancestors. The other half thinks you got lucky. Which half are you? Kira manages to croak. I think you're tougher than you look and you've got the war wolf's 200 years of combat knowledge flowing through that bond of yours. Elena helps her sit up, supporting her back. But tough or not, you need to heal. The second trial is in 5 days. 5 days. It feels simultaneously too soon and an eternity away. Valker has been sleeping beside her bed, and now his massive head lifts, amber eyes checking her condition with an almost maternal concern. Through their bond, she feels his relief at her consciousness, his anger at those who hurt her, his pride in her victory. He hasn't left your side, Elena says softly. The healers tried to make him wait outside, but he growled at anyone who came near you. Eventually they gave up and let him stay. Over the next 3 days, Kira heals with the accelerated speed of wolf shifters. Her ribs knit back together, her wounds close to pink scars. The healers are amazed at her recovery rate, whispering that the royal bloodline must carry enhanced healing. On the 4th day, Alpha King Gareth visits her recovery room. Walk with me, he says simply. Despite Elena's protests, Kira follows him through the stronghold's corridors until they reach a private balcony overlooking the Eastern Territories. The view is breathtaking. Forests stretching to distant mountains, the Pax villages scattered throughout, smoke rising from hundreds of hearths. "This is what you're fighting for," Gareth says quietly. "Not a throne or a title. These people. Their lives, their safety, their future." Kira nods, unable to find words adequate to the weight of what she's seeing. "The second trial begins tomorrow," Gareth continues. "The trial of wisdom. It's meant to test your judgment, your ability to make difficult decisions that affect the Pack's welfare." "What will I have to do?" "Solve the Pack's dilemma." Gareth's expression is grim. "We have a genuine crisis with the Eastern Pack. Border disputes, resource conflicts, violence escalating. I'll present you with all the information, all the context. You'll have 3 days to investigate, interview witnesses, consult advisors. Then you'll pronounce judgment before the council. And if my judgment is wrong, then you fail the trial and the Pack suffers the consequences of poor leadership." Gareth turns to face her fully. "This isn't a game, Kira. Whatever decision you make, we'll implement it. People's lives hang in the balance. Choose poorly and blood will be on your hands." The weight of responsibility crashes over her like a wave. This is real. This matters beyond her personal survival. "I understand," she whispers. The next morning, Kira stands before the Pack Council in a formal chamber. Maps are spread across a massive table, showing the disputed border territories. Reports are stacked in piles. Witness accounts, resource assessments, historical precedents. Elder Moira presents the situation with clinical precision. For the past 6 months, tensions with the Eastern Pack have escalated. The primary conflict centers on the Clearwater River, which forms our eastern border. Historically, both packs shared access to the river for fishing, irrigation, and drinking water. She points to a section of the map. However, this past spring the river's flow decreased dramatically. Fish populations have crashed. Farmlands on both sides are struggling with drought. Both packs claim priority access and skirmishes have resulted in injuries and 3 deaths. 2 from the Eastern Pack, 1 of ours. The Beta, Dominic Ironfang, adds context. The Eastern Pack's Alpha is Cassius Thornridge. He's young, only ruled for 2 years since his father's death. Some say he's weak, trying to prove himself through aggressive posturing. Others say he's desperate. His pack is larger than ours, more mouths to feed, and they're suffering worse from the drought. What solutions have been attempted? Kira asks, studying the maps. Negotiation failed, Gareth says. Both sides claim historical rights. Military posturing has only increased tensions. We could go to war, secure the river by force, but that would mean significant casualties on both sides. Or we could concede access, Elder Moira adds, but our own people would suffer. The river isn't producing enough for both packs. Someone must go without. Kira spends the rest of the day poring over documents, but something doesn't add up. According to historical records, the Clearwater River never ran dry, even during past droughts. Its source was a spring-fed lake in the mountains, reliable year-round. I need to visit the border, she tells Elena that evening. I need to see the river myself. That's dangerous, Elena warns. The Eastern Pack patrols those territories. If they catch you, then Valkyr comes with me. Kira looks at the war wolf, who's been listening to everything. No one will attack with him at my side. The next morning, before dawn, Kira, Elena, and Valkyr set out for the eastern border. They bring 2 other warriors for safety, but Kira insists on keeping the group small and non-threatening. The journey takes most of the day. As they approach the disputed territory, Kira sees the evidence of drought, crops withering in fields, fish carcasses rotting along dried portions of the riverbank. Pack members from both sides eye each other with suspicion and hostility across the water. But it's when they track the river upstream that Kira finds what she's looking for. There, she points to a structure barely visible through the trees. What is that? Elena squints. Looks like an old dam? I didn't know there was one on this river. They approach carefully. The dam is ancient, built from stone and timber, now crumbling with age and neglect. But more importantly, Kira can see where part of it has collapsed. redirecting a significant portion of the river's flow into a different channel entirely, one that runs northeast, away from both packs' territories. This is the problem, Kira says, excitement building. The drought didn't reduce the water. The collapsed dam redirected it. If we repair this, the river returns to normal flow and both packs have access. Elena examines the structure. It would take significant labor, resources, engineering knowledge we might not have. But it's possible, Kira insists. And it solves the conflict without war, without anyone going without. They return to the stronghold that evening, and Kira spends the next 2 days refining her proposal. She consults with the pack's builders who confirm the dam could be repaired. He calculates the resources needed, the timeline, the labor required. On the 3rd day, she stands before the full council to present her judgment. The conflict over the Clearwater River isn't about historical rights or territory, Kira begins, her voice steady despite her nerves. It's about survival. Both packs need water. Both packs are suffering. And both packs are prepared to kill to secure what they need. She unfurls the map she's prepared, showing the collapsed dam and the redirected water flow. The solution isn't military force or negotiated rationing. The solution is cooperation. We rebuild the dam together. Our pack and the Eastern pack sharing labor and resources. When the river is restored, both packs benefit. No one goes without. No one dies. Elder Moira's expression is skeptical. And you think the Eastern pack will agree to this? They could attack our workers, steal our resources. Then we make the first gesture, Kira counters. We send our workers and materials to begin the repairs with no conditions. We demonstrate trust. That's naive, Marcus sneers from his position at the council table. He's healed from their battle, but his eyes still burn with hatred. The Eastern pack will see it as weakness. They'll attack. They'll see it as strength, Kira argues. It takes more courage to extend an olive branch than to raise a sword. And if they do attack, then we know for certain they're unreasonable, and we can pursue other options with the moral high ground secured. Gareth leans forward, studying her intently. You're risking pack lives on the hope that the Eastern pack will respond with honor. I'm risking a small team of workers on the belief that most people, most packs, want peace if given a genuine path to it. Kira meets his gaze steadily. My grandfather used to say, she pauses, the memory surfacing through Valker's ancient knowledge, the pack that shares thrives, the pack that hoards dies alone. This is a chance to live up to that principle. Silence falls over the council chamber. Gareth exchanges glances with his advisors, with Elder Moira, with the Beta. Finally he speaks. Your judgment is unconventional. Risky. It contradicts traditional pack politics that prioritize strength above all else. Kira's heart sinks, certain she's failed. But, Gareth continues, a slight smile touching his scarred face, it's also wise. Compassionate. And it offers a real solution rather than prolonging conflict. We'll implement it. Relief floods through her, but Gareth holds up a hand. However you proposed it, you'll oversee it. If it fails, if our workers are attacked, if the Eastern pack responds with aggression, the consequences fall on you. I understand, Kira says. I'll go with the workers. If there's danger, I'll face it first. Over the next week, Kira leads a team of 20 workers to the collapsed dam. Valker accompanies them, his presence ensuring no one attacks without serious consideration of the consequences. On the 2nd day, Eastern pack scouts discover them. Kira expects hostility, violence, the very attacks that Marcus and others predicted. Instead, the scouts return with Alpha Cassius Thornridge himself. He's younger than Kira expected, maybe mid-20s, with tired eyes and the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. He examines their work. The repairs already underway, the materials brought from Silver Moon territory. You're fixing it, he says, disbelief clear in his voice. You're actually fixing the dam. The river belongs to both our packs, Kira replies. Neither of us benefits from conflict. Both of us benefit from cooperation. Cassius is silent for a long moment. Then he calls to his scouts. Return to our territory. Bring workers. We'll help with the repairs. The combined effort takes 2 weeks, but together the 2 packs rebuild the ancient dam. When water finally flows properly again, returning the Clearwater River to its historical levels. Members of both packs celebrate together. It's the first time in generations that Silvermoon and Eastern Pack wolves have worked side by side in peace. When Kira returns to the stronghold, the entire pack turns out to greet her. Not as a claimant or a threat, but as a leader who solved an intractable problem without bloodshed. Gareth meets her at the gates, and for the first time he bows his head to her, a gesture of respect between equals. The second trial is past, he announces. You have demonstrated wisdom beyond your years, compassion that honors the Ashwood legacy, and the courage to choose peace over war. The pack's cheers echo across the stronghold. But as Kira scans the crowd, she sees Marcus's face, twisted with barely controlled rage. He's losing support with each trial she passes. And desperate men make dangerous choices. The final trial approaches, the trial of courage to be held on the Blood Moon. And Kira knows Marcus won't let her survive it. The Blood Moon rises like a wound in the sky, painting the stronghold in shades of crimson and shadow. Kira watches it from her chamber window, her stomach tight with anticipation and dread. Tonight is the final trial, the trial of courage. 3 weeks ago she was a homeless girl condemned to die. Now she stands on the precipice of claiming her birthright, one trial away from everything changing forever. You're ready, Elena says from the doorway, though her expression betrays her worry. You've trained harder than anyone I've ever seen. You've passed 2 impossible trials. You can do this. Kira turns from the window. She's wearing ceremonial fighting leathers, deep blue with silver threading, colors of the Ashwood line. Her hair is braided back from her face in the traditional warrior style. She looks like someone who belongs here, though inside she still feels like that frightened girl in the pit. What if I'm not strong enough? The fear escapes before she can stop it. Marcus wants me dead. He'll do anything to ensure I fail. Then you'll face him with everything you've learned, everything you've become. Elena grips her shoulders. You're not that invisible girl anymore, Kira. You're the heir who defeated 3 warriors with broken ribs. You're the leader who brought peace to a decades-old conflict. You're the woman who earned the loyalty of a 200-year-old war wolf. Through their bond, Valkyr sends waves of confidence and fierce protectiveness. He's been more agitated than usual today, his instincts screaming warnings that Kira feels echoing in her own gut. Something is going to go wrong tonight. They both know it. The summons comes at moonrise. Kira walks through the stronghold corridors one last time, guards flanking her not as jailers but as honor guard. Pack members line the halls, and their expressions have changed over these 3 weeks. She sees hope in some eyes, respect in others. Even those who oppose her claim can't deny what she's accomplished. The arena is transformed for the Blood Moon trial. Torches burn in circles around the pit, their flames casting dancing shadows across the stone. The viewing platforms are packed beyond capacity, wolves in both human and beast form crowding together to witness the final judgment. Alpha King Gareth sits on his throne, his scarred face impassive. Elder Moira stands at his right, her ancient eyes calculating. And scattered throughout the crowd, Kira sees Marcus's supporters, high-ranked wolves who've prospered under the current regime and fear what her ascension might mean. Kira Ashwood. Gareth's voice booms across the arena. You have passed the trial of strength, proving your physical prowess. You have passed the trial of wisdom, demonstrating sound judgment and compassionate leadership. Tonight you face the final challenge, the trial of courage. He gestures to the arena floor where 3 wolves wait in fighting stance. Kira recognizes them. Sasha Moonrunner, fast and tactical, Garrett Stone, defensive specialist, and Commander Alexei, Gareth's own right hand and one of the most skilled fighters in the pack. You will face all 3 in combat, Gareth continues. Fight to submission, not death. Defeat them and you claim your birthright. Fail and your challenge ends here. The crowd roars as Kira descends into the arena. Valkyr is sequestered in the observation area, held back by guards and magical wards, but she feels his presence like a second heartbeat in her chest. At Gareth's signal she shifts. The transformation is smooth now, practiced, her wolf form emerging with barely a pause. Her brown-toned fur gleams in the torchlight, smaller than her opponent's but lean and quick. Sasha attacks first, testing Kira's defenses with rapid strikes. But 3 weeks of training have honed Kira's reflexes. She dodges, counters, uses Sasha's momentum against her. The dance of combat feels almost natural now, muscle memory combining with ancestral knowledge flowing through her bond with Valkyr. 10 minutes of intense fighting and Sasha yields, outmaneuvered and exhausted. The crowd's roar intensifies. 1 down, 2 to go. Garrett Stone is next, his defensive style the opposite of Sasha's aggression. He's patient, methodical, waiting for Kira to make mistakes. The battle becomes a war of attrition, both wolves circling, feinting, searching for openings. Kira remembers the lesson from fighting Drake. Sometimes the path to victory is through patience, not force. She matches Garrett's defensive approach, refusing to be drawn into reckless attacks. 20 minutes pass, then 30, both wolves showing fatigue but neither yielding ground. Finally, Kira sees it, a slight favoritism in Garrett's left rear leg, an old injury that's weakening under prolonged strain. She exploits it ruthlessly, forcing him to pivot on the weak leg until it buckles. When he falls, she's there, fangs at his throat. Garrett yields. The crowd is on their feet now, the noise deafening. Even those who came hoping to see her fail are caught up in the spectacle. The homeless girl is defeating the pack's elite warriors. Commander Alexei steps forward and the atmosphere shifts. This is Garrett's right hand, a warrior with 30 years of combat experience. His gray and white wolf form is massive, scarred from countless battles. When they engage, Kira immediately feels the difference. Alexei is faster than Drake, more tactical than Brenna, more patient than Garrett. He's everything she's faced, combined and perfected. They clash in the center of the arena and the impact drives Kira backward. Alexei's experience shows in every movement. He anticipates her techniques, counters her strategies, pushes her to her absolute limits. Blood spatters the arena floor, though Kira can't tell anymore whose it is. Her muscles scream, her lungs burn, but she refuses to yield. This is for her parents who died protecting her. For Valkyr who waited 20 years. For every invisible person who's been overlooked and dismissed. She channels everything. Elena's training, Valkyr's ancestral knowledge, her own desperate will to survive, into a combination attack that Alexei doesn't expect. She feints high, strikes low, then uses a technique so old even Alexei has never seen it. The commander goes down and Kira's fangs find his throat. For a heartbeat they're both still, both panting with exhaustion. Then Alexei's eyes meet hers and she sees respect there. Yield. His submission comes through a wolfish whine. Kira releases him, stepping back on trembling legs. She's done it. She's passed the trial. The crowd's roar is deafening, shaking the very stones of the stronghold. Then Marcus Silverstone leaps into the arena and chaos erupts. No. His howl cuts through the celebration like a blade. In wolf form, his silver coat gleams in the torchlight as he charges toward Kira with killing intent. Gareth surges to his feet. Marcus, stand down. The trial is complete. But Marcus is beyond reason, beyond caring about rules or consequences. Kira sees it in his eyes. Pure hatred, the desperation of a man who's lost everything and has nothing left to lose. I framed you. Marcus snarls, his voice carrying through the magical acoustics of the arena. I stole the moonstone. I blamed you because I knew, that Valkyr would recognize you eventually. I had to kill you before anyone discovered the truth. His confession broadcasts to the entire pack, thousands of witnesses hearing his admission of treachery. But Marcus doesn't care anymore. He's past politics, past scheming. Now he just wants Kira dead. Guards rush into the arena but Marcus is faster. His jaws aim for Kira's throat, and she's too exhausted from 3 successive battles to dodge effectively. Then Valkyr's howl splits the night. Not just sound but power, ancient magic that shatters the wards holding him back. The war wolf crashes into the arena like a force of nature, placing himself between Marcus and Kira. The two wolves face each other, Marcus driven by desperate rage, Valkyr by protective fury. For a moment, it seems like Valkyr will tear Marcus apart and no one could blame him. But Kira forces herself to move, to step forward despite her exhaustion. Stop, she commands, her voice hoarse but firm. Valkyr pauses, amber eyes questioning. Kira shifts back to human form, standing between them despite the danger. This isn't how it ends. Not with more violence. Not with revenge. She looks at Marcus, who's trembling with rage and fear. You tried to kill me. You framed me for theft, condemned me to execution, sabotaged the trials. By every law of the pack, your life is forfeit. The arena falls silent, everyone waiting to see what justice looks like in the hands of the new heir. But I won't kill you, Kira says quietly. You'll face the pack's judgment for your crimes. Theft of sacred relics, false testimony, attempted murder. The elders will decide your punishment. But I won't be your executioner, Marcus. I won't let your hatred make me into what you feared I'd become. She turns to Gareth. This is what I learned from my trials. Strength isn't just defeating enemies. Wisdom isn't just solving problems. Courage isn't just facing danger. True leadership is knowing when to show mercy, even when revenge would be easier. The silence stretches for a heartbeat, then two. Then the pack erupts in howls. Not bloodthirsty calls for execution, but acknowledgement of her judgment, her character, her right to lead. Guards drag Marcus away, his struggles futile. As he's removed from the arena, Kira sees his expression shift from rage to hollow defeat. He's lost everything, his position, his future, his freedom. And she's won. Gareth descends from his throne, walking across the arena floor with deliberate steps. The crowd falls silent again, waiting. When he reaches Kira, he removes the silver chain from around his neck. The symbol of alpha authority, the mark of pack leadership that's been in his family for 20 years. For 20 years I've worn this chain, Gareth says, his voice carrying across the arena. I believed it was my right, my burden, my duty. I ruled as best I could, brought prosperity and strength to our pack. He holds the chain between them, the silver gleaming in the torchlight. But Valkyr has never been wrong. He served your grandfather with loyalty, your great-grandfather before that. His judgment is the judgment of centuries, of magic older than any of us. Gareth's eyes meet Kira's, and there's no resentment there, only acceptance. When he knelt before you in the pit, he declared you the rightful heir. Everything since has only proven him right. Slowly, reverently, Gareth places the silver chain around Kira's neck. Kira Ashwood, heir to the true bloodline, you have passed every trial with courage and honor. You've proven yourself worthy not just by blood but by merit. I acknowledge your claim. I recognize your right. The pack's howls shake the foundations of the stronghold. A sound of acceptance, of change, of history being made. But Kira doesn't accept the chain without response. Instead, she removes it gently and holds it between herself and Gareth. This chain represents responsibility for thousands of lives, she says. I've been invisible and powerless my entire life. 3 weeks ago, I didn't even know I was heir to anything. I don't have the experience to rule alone. She looks at Gareth, then at the assembled pack. You've ruled for 20 years with strength and wisdom. You brought prosperity when the pack needed stability. Your experience is valuable, irreplaceable. He takes a breath. So I propose something unprecedented. Not conquest. Not replacement. But partnership. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Dual leadership, Kira continues. You have the experience and knowledge of governing. I have the bloodline and a different perspective. Together we could be what this pack needs. The old and the new, tradition and change, strength and compassion combined. Elder Moira steps forward, her ancient face shocked. There's no precedent for 2 alphas. Then we create one, Kira interrupts gently. The pack is stronger united than divided. This way no one loses. The Blackthorn line keeps its honor and influence. The Ashwood line returns to leadership. And the pack benefits from both. Gareth stares at her for a long moment and Kira can't read his expression. Then slowly a smile breaks across his scarred face. Genuine, warm, surprised. You continue to prove your wisdom, he says. Most people given the chance to seize total power would take it. You offer to share it instead. He pauses. My answer is yes. If the pack accepts it. Gareth turns to address the assembled thousands. What say you? Do you accept dual leadership? 2 alphas ruling together for the good of all. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Howls of approval that echo across the territory. carrying for miles through the forest. Even those who opposed Kira's claim can see the wisdom in unity over division. The decision is made. The pack has chosen. The coronation takes place 3 nights later, under the full blood moon that still hangs heavy and red in the sky. The stronghold has been transformed. Torches line every corridor, every balcony, casting warm light that pushes back the darkness. Pack members from every district have gathered, thousands of wolves in both human and beast form, representing every rank and family line. This isn't just a transfer of power. It's a new beginning. Kira stands in her private chambers, barely recognizing herself in the polished metal mirror. She wears ceremonial robes in deep blue and silver, ashwood colors that haven't been displayed publicly in 20 years. Her hair is braided in the intricate style of royal women, woven with silver threads that catch the light. The crescent-shaped birthmark on her shoulder is visible above the robe's neckline, no longer hidden but proudly displayed. "Your mother would be proud," Elena says softly, adjusting the drape of fabric. "Your father too. They gave everything to keep you safe, to give you a chance at this moment." Kira's eyes sting with unshed tears. She wishes they could be here, wishes they could see what their sacrifice made possible. But in a way they are here, in her memories, in her bloodline, in every choice she makes guided by the values they instilled. A knock at the door and Gareth enters. He wears his own ceremonial robes, black and silver for the Blackthorn line. The contrast between them is striking. Her youth and his experience, her inherited right and his earned authority, her compassion and his strength. "Ready?" he asks. Terrified, Kira admits. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I make mistakes that hurt people?" "You will make mistakes," Gareth says bluntly. "Every leader does. The question is whether you learn from them, whether you surround yourself with good counsel, whether you put the pack's needs above your own ego." He offers a slight smile. "So far you've demonstrated all of those qualities. The rest is practice and time." Valker waits outside the chamber, and when Kira emerges, his tail actually wags, a gesture of pure joy she's never seen from him before. Through their bond, she feels his pride, his satisfaction that the wait is finally over, that the bloodline he's served for centuries is restored. Together, Kira, Gareth, and Valker, they walk through the stronghold toward the main courtyard where the ceremony will take place. Pack members line the corridors, bowing as they pass, offering words of blessing and support. The courtyard is packed beyond capacity. A raised platform has been constructed in the center, with space for both alphas to stand side by side. Elder Moira waits there, holding the ancient texts that contain the coronation rites. As Kira and Gareth ascend the platform, the crowd falls silent. Every eye is fixed on them, every breath held in anticipation. Elder Moira begins to speak, her voice carrying through magical amplification. "Tonight we witness something unprecedented in the history of the Silvermoon Pack. Not a transfer of power but a joining of strength. Not the end of one line and the rise of another, but the unity of both." She turns to Kira. "Kira Ashwood, heir of the true bloodline, you have proven yourself through trials of strength, wisdom, and courage. You have demonstrated leadership that honors your ancestors while forging new paths. Do you swear to protect this pack, to lead with justice and compassion, to place the welfare of your people above your own?" Kira's voice is clear and strong. "I swear it." Elder Moira turns to Gareth. "Gareth Blackthorn, Alpha for 20 years, you have guided this pack through prosperity and peace. You have shown strength in accepting change, wisdom in recognizing the old magic's choice. Do you swear to share leadership, to counsel and support, to bridge old and new for the good of all?" "I swear it," Gareth responds. Moira produces 2 chains, both silver, both ancient, both symbols of Alpha authority. She'd spent the past 3 days searching the pack's archives, finding a second chain that had been stored away since the massacre, waiting for an Ashwood heir who was believed dead. She places one around Kira's neck, the other around Gareth's. 2 alphas, Moira announces, her voice resonating with power. 2 bloodlines. 1 pack. United in purpose, balanced in strength. The crowd erupts in howls that shake the very stones beneath their feet. Kira feels the sound in her bones, in her soul, the acceptance of thousands of voices joining together. Then Valkyr steps forward and the crowd falls silent again. The war wolf moves to stand between Kira and Gareth, his massive head lowered in the gesture of submission and respect he shows only to true authority. But he's not choosing between them. He's acknowledging both. Through the bond, Kira feels Valkyr's approval, his satisfaction that the pack has found balance. For 200 years he's served the Ashwood line. Now he'll serve both bloodlines, the bridge between past and future. Gareth places one hand on Valkyr's head. Kira places her other hand beside his. The connection completes. Old magic recognizing new partnership, ancient bonds adapting to unprecedented change. Let it be known, Gareth's voice carries across the courtyard, that this day marks a new era for the Silvermoon Pack. An era where strength and compassion rule together, where experience and fresh perspective guide our choices, where the mistakes of the past are acknowledged and learned from. Kira adds her voice to his. I vow to create a pack where no child suffers as I did, where no one is invisible or forgotten, where every member has value regardless of rank or bloodline. I vow to rule with the wisdom of my ancestors and the lessons of the present. The ceremony continues with traditional rites, the presentation of symbolic gifts, the recitation of pack history, the binding oaths that connect Alpha to pack member. But Kira barely processes it all. She's overwhelmed by the weight of the moment, by how far she's come in just 3 weeks. From condemned prisoner to co-alpha. From invisible to irreplaceable. From alone to bonded with a legendary war wolf and supported by thousands. As the blood moon reaches its zenith, the formal ceremony concludes and the celebration begins. Music fills the courtyard, drums and flutes playing traditional pack songs. Food and drink appear on tables that seem to stretch endlessly. Pack members shift between human and wolf form, dancing and howling with joy. Kira finds herself pulled into the celebration, wolves of all ranks approaching to offer congratulations and pledges of loyalty. She tries to remember names, faces, grateful for Elena who stays close and whispers helpful reminders. At one point, Commander Alexei approaches with several other warriors who'd fought against her in the trials. You fought with honor, he says simply. We're proud to serve under your leadership. Later, citizens from the lower district, wolves she'd lived among during her years of homelessness, approach with tears in their eyes. You haven't forgotten us, one elderly woman says. You promised to make things better for people like us. We believe you. The weight of their trust, their hope, settles on Kira's shoulders like a mantle. This is what leadership means. Not power or glory but responsibility for the lives and welfare of others. As the celebration continues into the early morning hours, Kira finds a quiet moment on the balcony overlooking the courtyard. Valkyr joins her, his massive presence a comfort. We did it, she whispers to him. Against all odds we actually did it. Through their bond, Valkyr sends images. Her grandfather standing on this same balcony, watching over celebrations much like this one. Her great-grandfather before him. Generations of Ashwoods who bore the responsibility she now shares. She's not alone in this. She has Valkyr's 200 years of wisdom. She has Gareth's experience and counsel. She has Elena's friendship and the loyalty of warriors like Alexei. She has the support of pack members who believe in the promise of change. Gareth joins her on the balcony, 2 cups of ceremonial wine in his hands. He offers one to her. To new beginnings, he toasts. To balance, Kira responds. They drink together watching the celebration below. The pack is unified in a way it hasn't been in decades, old wounds beginning to heal, new hope taking root. Thank you, Kira says quietly, for accepting my proposal. For sharing power instead of fighting to keep it all. That took courage. Gareth shrugs. I've had 20 years of absolute authority. I've learned that the hardest decisions are often the right ones. He pauses. Besides, you were right. Together we're stronger than either of us could be alone. Your compassion balances my pragmatism. My experience grounds your idealism. It works. They stand in comfortable silence, watching the blood moon begin to set, the sky lightening toward dawn. Down in the courtyard, Kira sees pack members dancing together, high-ranked and low-ranked, old families and newcomers, all the divisions that once separated them dissolving in the joy of the moment. This is what she fought for. Not a throne or a title, but this connection, community, the chance to make things better. What happens now? She asks Gareth. Now the real work begins, he says with a slight smile. Ruling is less about dramatic trials and more about endless council meetings, dispute resolutions, resource management, and diplomatic correspondence. Far less glamorous than fighting in arenas. Sounds terrible, Kira says, but she's smiling too. It is, Gareth agrees. But it matters. Every decision affects lives, shapes futures. And now you get to help make those decisions. As dawn breaks over the Silver Moon territory, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Kira feels the weight and wonder of her new reality settling into place. She's no longer the invisible girl who owned nothing but rags and survived on scraps. She's no longer the condemned prisoner waiting for execution in a dark cell. She's no longer just the lost heir trying to prove herself worthy. She's Alpha Kira Ashwood, co-ruler of the Silver Moon Pack, bonded to Valkyr the War Wolf, leader alongside Gareth Blackthorn. She's a voice for the voiceless, a hope for the hopeless, a bridge between the old ways and new possibilities. The journey that began with a false accusation and a terrifying beast in a blood-stained pit has led her here, to a balcony overlooking a celebrating pack, to a position of power and responsibility, to a future full of challenges and opportunities. Valkyr's howl rises into the dawn sky, not a cry of loneliness or rage but of triumph and joy. The pack joins him, thousands of voices harmonizing in a sound that carries for miles through the forest, announcing to every neighboring territory that something has changed. The Silver Moon Pack has found its balance. The lost heir has come home. And a new era has begun. Kira closes her eyes and lets the sound wash over her, feeling the connection to every voice, every soul in her pack. They're hers to protect, to lead, to serve. And she's ready. The invisible girl found her voice. The condemned prisoner claimed her freedom. The lost heir discovered her purpose. And the war wolf who knelt before a poor girl shocking the entire pack finally found what he'd been waiting for. Not just an heir to serve, but a leader worth following. A soul that matched the compassion and strength of the bloodline he'd protected for 200 years. They came to watch her die. Instead they witnessed the birth of a new age. One where strength bowed to compassion, where power shared became power multiplied, and where a kingdom found its heart again. As the sun rises fully, bathing the stronghold in golden light, Kira turns from the balcony to face whatever comes next. The trials are over. The real journey is just beginning. And she's not afraid. The end. Hello friends. Kira's journey from invisible homeless girl to co-alpha of the Silver Moon Pack shows us that our greatest trials often become our most transformative moments. What started with a false accusation and a legendary war wolf's impossible kneel became a story of courage, wisdom, and the power of choosing compassion over revenge. If Kira's story touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you. What moment resonated with you most? Was it her first connection with Valkyr in the pit? Her choice to spare Marcus despite his betrayal? Her wisdom in proposing dual leadership instead of seizing total power? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you listening from? Kira's story is reaching people across the globe and I'm curious. Are you listening during your morning commute? Before bed? While working out? Tell me in the comments where in the world you're joining us from and what part of your day you dedicate to these stories. If you enjoyed this tale, please subscribe to this channel for more stories about unlikely heroes, legendary beasts, and the power of choosing mercy over vengeance. Hit that like button to help others discover Kira's journey. And remember, you're never as powerless as you think. Like Kira, you carry strength you haven't discovered yet, wisdom you haven't tapped into, and the potential to transform not just your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. The war wolf chose Kira not because she was perfect, but because she was authentic. Your authenticity is your greatest power. Thank you for journeying with us through the Silver Moon territory. Until next time, may you find your own Valkyr, that force in your life that recognizes your true worth when everyone else overlooks it. Subscribe, share, comment, and never forget you matter.